Before we dive into this latest sci-fi epic, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching.
Across the infinite expanse of the cosmos, where galaxies spiraled like celestial whirlpools and nebulae painted breathtaking tapestries of light and gas, the Stellarian Concord stirred into being. They were not born of flesh and blood, nor did they inhabit the surfaces of planets. Instead, their consciousnesses were woven from the very fabric of stellar phenomena, their thoughts echoing through the electromagnetic spectrum. Some pulsed with the raw, untamed energy of nascent stars, their awareness dawning with the first nuclear fusion, their communications radiating outward as shimmering waves of light that danced across light years. Others coalesced within the vast, swirling cathedrals of nebulae, their understanding of the universe painted in the vibrant hues of ionized gas and interstellar dust, their perspectives shaped by the slow, majestic cycles of cosmic birth and death. Still others resonated with the deep, ancient hum of planetary cores, their wisdom echoing the eons of geological transformation and the subtle gravitational tides that shaped worlds. Only recently awakened to the intricate web of their interconnectedness within the grand cosmic ocean, they extended tentative tendrils of awareness, seeking to comprehend their delicate place amidst the myriad ancient powers that held dominion over the galaxy. Their perception of reality transcended the crude limitations of biological senses, embracing the complex interplay of gravitational forces, the ceaseless torrent of cosmic radiation, and the nuanced language of electromagnetic fields, a symphony of the universe far beyond human comprehension. At the luminous heart of this burgeoning concord resided Lamina, an entity of unparalleled and captivating radiance. Born within the incandescent, almost godlike core of a young, fiercely burning star, her very essence was pure, effervescent light, a concentrated spark of cosmic creation. Her thoughts manifested as cascading photons, illuminating the surrounding void with bursts of profound insight and understanding, and her will was expressed through the delicate yet immensely powerful manipulation of the fundamental electromagnetic forces that governed the stellar realm. Lamina possessed an intrinsic and deeply ingrained grasp of cosmic harmony, a profound and unwavering belief in the inherent potential for symbiotic relationships between the seemingly disparate forms of consciousness that illuminated the vast galactic expanse. It was this deeply held conviction, this almost spiritual yearning for interconnectedness, that propelled her forward as the emissary of the Stellarian Concord, her mission a beacon of hope. Cast into the encroaching darkness, to bridge the seemingly insurmountable gulf between the young, idealistic Concord and the ancient, formidable, and notoriously isolationist Xylos Ascendancy. In stark and imposing contrast to the youthful vibrancy and hopeful idealism of the Stellarian Concord stood the Xylos Ascendancy, an empire steeped in the cold, hard reality of countless millennia of unchallenged galactic dominance. Their reach extended across vast sectors, their tendrils of control like unbreakable chains constricting the life out of countless star systems. Forged in the unforgiving crucible of eons of strategic expansion and brutal conquest, the Xylos themselves were not living beings in any organic sense, but crystalline entities of intricate, geometrically flawless structure, their very forms radiating an aura of cold, unyielding power. Their consciousness resided within these perfect, multifaceted prisons, their perception of the universe one of absolute, rigid order and unyielding hierarchy. Power, to the Xylos, was not merely a tool, it was the ultimate and only arbiter, dictating precedents with brutal efficiency and demanding absolute, unquestioning obedience from the lesser entities that unfortunately populated their vast and unforgiving domain. Their technological prowess was terrifyingly advanced, built upon a profound and almost godlike understanding of the fundamental forces that governed reality, allowing them to command gravitational fields with effortless precision, to warp spacetime at their whim, and to wield devastating energy weapons capable of vaporizing entire planets into clouds of cosmic dust with a mere thought. The Xylos Grand Conclave, a chilling assembly of the most ancient and unimaginably powerful of their crystalline kind, represented the absolute zenith of their complex and unforgiving societal structure. Within the hallowed, geometrically perfect chamber, a cathedral of frozen light and razor-sharp angles that seemed to defy the very laws of physics, their immense crystalline forms radiated an aura of absolute, glacial authority, their countless multifaceted surfaces reflecting the cold, indifferent light of distant, dying stars. It was within this imposing and utterly silent space that Lamina, in her radiant and hopeful form, presented the luminary accord. Her light pulsed with an almost desperate earnestness, her thoughts projected not as the clumsy, inefficient vibrations of biological language, but as intricate, flowing patterns of pure energy and resonant frequencies, conveying the Concord's sincere and deeply felt vision of symbiotic energy exchange and the potential for mutual, galaxy-wide growth. She spoke of the potential for shared understanding, where the Stellarian Concord could offer its unique and intimate insights into the delicate balance of stellar dynamics and the intricate, life-giving flows of cosmic energy, in exchange for the Ascendancy's vast and jealously guarded repository of galactic history and their terrifying mastery of forbidden technology. Lamina envisioned a future, perhaps foolishly optimistic, where seemingly disparate forms of cosmic consciousness could not only coexist but actively enrich the galactic tapestry with their unique perspectives, abilities, and forms of understanding. However, Lumina's heartfelt and impassioned plea for a new era of cosmic harmony was met not with reasoned debate or even outright hostility, but with an echoing silence that resonated with the cold, absolute indifference of the deepest void. This oppressive silence was finally broken only by a low, guttural resonance that emanated from the very core of Xylos, the Xylos prime executor, a crystalline behemoth whose very presence seemed to warp the light and distort the gravitational fields within the chamber. His countless facets shimmered with an ancient, internal light that held no warmth, only the cold, hard gleam of absolute power. His rejection of the luminary accord was not delivered through articulate language, but through a deliberate and subtle, yet undeniably potent, manipulation of the chamber's gravitational fields. Lumina's radiant form flickered momentarily, a barely perceptible dimming of her light that spoke volumes of the Ascendancy's casual power and their utter contempt. His projected thoughts, sharp and crystalline as shattered ice, pierced Lumina's hopeful aura. The Concord were mere fleeting sparks in the face of their eternal, unyielding flame, insignificant gnats daring to buzz around a cosmic predator of unimaginable age and power. Symbiosis. A pathetic and absurd joke from the weak attempting to elevate themselves to the lofty, untouchable heights of the mighty Xylos. The rejection was far more than a simple diplomatic setback or a mere failure to find common ground. It was a profound and deeply felt insult, a chilling and absolute dismissal that struck at the very core of the Stellarian Concord's nascent hopes for peaceful integration into the complex and often brutal galactic community. The Xylos' arrogance was palpable, their condescension absolute and suffocating, leaving Lamina and the Concord to retreat back into the silent, star-dusted depths of space, their radiant optimism dimmed by the cold, unforgiving winds of imperial disdain. Yet, even as they mourned the apparent and crushing death of their diplomatic aspirations, a subtle and unsettling unease began to ripple through their interconnected consciousness, a disquieting feeling that transcended mere disappointment. The Xylos' dismissive arrogance carried a disturbing undercurrent, a chilling hint of something far more sinister and threatening than mere indifference or a simple refusal to cooperate. Their nascent and ill-defined fears were soon to be realized in a horrifying and brutal manner. In the vast, empty gulf between star systems, far from any known zones of conflict or established military boundaries, Stellarian energy conduits, clearly marked with universally recognized symbols of peaceful transit and specifically designated for the non-offensive and mutually beneficial transfer of energy between emerging stellar entities, were ambushed and brutally intercepted by silent, predatory Xylos warships that moved with an unnerving, almost spectral grace through the cold vacuum of space. These vessels, angular and obsidian in their construction, seemed to absorb the very light around them, their presence a chilling void in the star-strewn darkness. Without a single flicker of warning or any semblance of provocation, they unleashed devastating and utterly merciless beams of pure, raw energy, tearing through the delicate and intricately structured energy conduits, vaporizing their precious cargo of carefully gathered stellar energy into the cold, unforgiving vacuum and leaving behind only faint, shimmering echoes of violently disrupted energy fields, a silent testament to the brutal efficiency of the attack. The assault was swift, brutal, and utterly unprovoked, a clear, unambiguous, and terrifying message from the Xylos Ascendancy. Their absolute dominance would not be questioned, and any attempt to assert independence, propose an alternative galactic order, or even engage in peaceful interaction without their express permission would be met with swift, merciless, and total annihilation. The unprovoked and savage destruction of their peaceful energy conduits sent a shockwave of profound grief, incandescent outrage, and a chilling sense of utter betrayal through the interconnected consciousness of the Stellarian Concord. The radiant light of their collective spirit flickered with a newfound, burning anger and a dawning, stark, and unavoidable realization of the true, brutal, and utterly unforgiving nature of the Xylos Ascendancy. Their initial, naive hopes for harmonious coexistence had been violently and irrevocably shattered, replaced by a stark and terrifying understanding of the unforgiving realities of galactic power dynamics. The Xylos had not merely rejected their plea for harmony, they had, in a cold and calculated act of aggression, declared their unwavering intention to maintain their iron grip on the galaxy through the brutal calculus of overwhelming force and absolute intimidation. The Stellarian Concord now stood at a critical and terrifying precipice, succumbed to the Ascendancy's tyrannical and, seemingly inevitable will, fading back into the silent, uncaring cosmic background, or find an alternative path to survival, a desperate and seemingly impossible path that might even, against all odds, lead to a measure of justice for the unprovoked and devastating aggression they had so recently suffered. In the silent depths of their wounded collective consciousness, amidst the flickering embers of their shattered hope, the first, tentative, and ethically fraught seeds of the audacious and clandestine null-point directive began to sprout. The brutal, unprovoked aggression of the Xylos Ascendancy, the cold and calculated dissipation of the Stellarian Concord's peaceful energy conduits, left an enduring, invisible scar upon the nascent collective consciousness of the stellar entities. The radiant harmony that had characterized their initial outreach into the galactic community was now fractured, the bright hope of peaceful coexistence replaced by a chilling resolve and a dawning understanding that mere good intentions were insufficient for survival in this unforgiving galaxy. The Concord recognized with stark clarity that a direct military confrontation with the immense, entrenched power of the Xylos Ascendancy would be nothing short of suicidal, a swift and utter annihilation of their nascent light. Their strength, they realized, lay not in brute force or the clash of energy weapons, but in the subtle manipulation of the fundamental cosmic energies that permeated the universe and the intricate, unseen interconnectedness of their distributed consciousness. It was from this profound understanding of their own unique strengths that the audacious and clandestine null-point directive was conceived, a covert operation designed to undermine the ascendancy from within, to sow the insidious seeds of dissent and rebellion in the seemingly impenetrable darkness of their vast dominion. The null-point directive represented a radical and unsettling departure from the Stellarian Concord's inherent inclination towards open communication and the pursuit of cosmic harmony. It necessitated a deliberate descent into the shadowy realm of subversion, a strategic and ethically complex deployment of their unique abilities to subtly influence and empower those who chafed under the rigid, unyielding control of the Xylos Ascendancy. This operation was not born of a desire for conquest or the establishment of their own dominance, but rather from the fundamental imperative of self-preservation and a deep, unwavering yearning for a galaxy where diverse forms of cosmic consciousness could coexist without the constant threat of annihilation by a power that recognized only its own supremacy. The agents of the null-point directive were not individuals in the conventional sense, but rather carefully focused emanations of the Concord's collective consciousness, extensions of their will projected across the vast cosmic network. These shapers of resonance, as they came to be known within the Concord's silent communications, possessed the delicate ability to subtly alter energy signatures, to gently nudge cognitive frequencies within energy-based life forms, and even to manipulate the subtle electromagnetic fields that formed the very foundation of the Xylos' advanced technology. They moved through the immense galactic network like unseen currents, their presence as elusive and pervasive as the faint whispers of the cosmic microwave background radiation, their influence often imperceptible to the crude senses of the ascendancy. Their primary targets were the countless energy-based life forms and the burgeoning stellar intelligences that existed within the Xylos Ascendancy's expansive and often brutally controlled territory. Many of these entities, while subjugated by the overwhelming power of the Ascendancy, harbored deep-seated resentments towards their rigid control, the stifling of their unique forms of expression, and the constant drain of their resources to fuel the Ascendancies. Insatiable expansion. The Shapers of Resonance sought out these hidden pockets of discontent, subtly amplifying their frustrations, nurturing their yearning for freedom, and planting the initial, almost imperceptible seeds of rebellion through carefully calibrated energy pulses and resonant frequencies that resonated with their individual energetic signatures. On the crystalline world of Xylos, a name that would, in the unfolding galactic drama, acquire a far different and more significant weight, the geometrically ordered inhabitants, known as the Facet Collective, found their rigid thought patterns subtly disrupted by the Concord's unseen influence. The Shapers of Resonance introduced minute, almost subliminal dissonant energy patterns into their crystalline matrices, sparking within their collective consciousness the first flickers of curiosity, the initial questioning of the Ascendancy's unwavering doctrines and the imposed perfection of their geometric forms. Ideas of independent geometric expressions, of asymmetrical beauty, and of alternative, more freely flowing energy pathways began to flicker within their interconnected minds, like nascent sparks in a long-dormant crystal. In the vast, swirling, and often chaotic nebula of Cygnus X1, where nascent stellar intelligences were just beginning to coalesce within the turbulent clouds of gas and dust, the Shapers of Resonance introduced subtle, almost imperceptible fluctuations in the ambient electromagnetic fields. These minute variations, carefully calibrated to remain below the detection thresholds of the Xylos crude monitoring systems, stimulated independent thought patterns and fostered a deep, intrinsic yearning for self-determination among the nebula's awakening consciousnesses. The very concept of forming their own unique energy structures, of charting their own independent cosmic paths through the nebula currents, began to take root within their fluid, evolving minds. Even within the seemingly impenetrable technological infrastructure of the Xylos Ascendancy itself, the Shapers of Resonance found subtle avenues for subversion. They delicately manipulated the intricate energy conduits that powered the Ascendancy's vast network, introducing minute inefficiencies, unpredictable fluctuations in energy flow, and barely detectable harmonic distortions. These subtle disruptions, initially dismissed by the Xylos technicians as mere random anomalies or minor system stress, began to sow the first seeds of doubt and frustration among those who were tasked with maintaining the flawless, unwavering operation of their technologically advanced systems. The seemingly perfect, unyielding order of the Xylos Ascendancy began to exhibit the first, almost invisible cracks in its formidable facade. The process was slow, painstaking, and required immense patience and a profound, almost intuitive understanding of the unique energy signatures and resonant frequencies of the diverse life forms and complex systems within the Ascendancy's sprawling domain. The Stellarian Concord understood with absolute certainty that a sudden, overt act of rebellion would be swiftly and brutally crushed by the Ascendancy's overwhelming military might. Their only viable path lay in the gradual, almost imperceptible erosion of the Ascendancy's control, in the subtle awakening of independent thought and the quiet, unseen empowerment of the subjugated. Throughout this clandestine and ethically challenging operation, the Stellarian Concord maintained a unified, unwavering focus, their collective consciousness directed with singular purpose towards the subtle art of subversion. They were acutely aware of the immense risks involved. Discovery would mean swift and certain annihilation, the extinguishing of their nascent light. Yet, the vivid memory of their shattered energy conduits and the cold, dismissive arrogance of the Xylos fueled their unwavering resolve. The null-point directive was not merely a strategic maneuver for survival, it was a profound testament to their deeply held belief in the inherent right of all cosmic consciousnesses to self-determination and the freedom to exist without the suffocating weight of tyrannical control. The seeds of rebellion had been silently sown in the fertile ground of oppression, and the Stellarian Concord waited with a patient, cosmic stillness for them to bloom in the seemingly impenetrable darkness of the Xylos Ascendancy's dominion. The galaxy, unaware of the subtle currents shifting beneath the surface, was about to learn that even the most formidable power could be undermined by the quiet whispers of dissent and the subtle manipulation of the fundamental forces that held it together. The subtle, patient manipulations of the Stellarian Concord began to yield their intended, transformative fruit, like seeds sown in fertile ground finally breaking through the hard, unforgiving surface. Across the vast and often brutally controlled expanse of the Xylos Ascendancy's territory, hidden pockets of discontent, carefully nurtured by the Concord's unseen influence, erupted into open, vibrant defiance. These were not the coordinated military offensives that the Ascendancy would have anticipated and swiftly crushed, but rather spontaneous and localized uprisings, each echoing with the unique energetic signature and cultural nuances of the subjugated entities, and all fueled by the subtle but significant empowerment they had received from the Concord's clandestine efforts. On the crystalline world of Xylos, a name that would, in the unfolding galactic drama, acquire a far different and more significant weight, the geometrically ordered Facet Collective experienced a profound and irreversible shift in their interconnected consciousness. The minute, almost subliminal dissonant energy patterns introduced by the Shapers of Resonance had slowly but surely fostered a sense of individual expression, a vibrant curiosity, and a fundamental questioning of the rigid, unyielding order imposed by the Xylos Ascendancy for countless generations. This newfound inner questioning manifested outwardly as a sudden and widespread proliferation of new geometric forms, intricate and deliberately asymmetrical, that stood in stark defiance of the Ascendancy's mandated uniformity and sterile perfection. Initially, these artistic rebellions were met with swift attempts at suppression by the Xylos overseers, energy beings tasked with maintaining absolute order on the crystalline planet. However, the subtle but persistent energy boosts provided by the Stellarian Concord empowered the dissenting facets, allowing them to resist the corrective energies and even to disrupt the Ascendancy's control mechanisms through focused bursts of dissonant resonance, effectively weaponizing their newfound individuality. What began as a quiet artistic rebellion soon escalated into organized resistance, with entire sections of the crystalline lattice shifting into defiant, chaotic formations, their collective resonance a powerful and unpredictable wave of independence that the Xylos found increasingly difficult and frustrating to contain. In the vast, swirling, and once seemingly compliant nebula of Cygnus X1, the nascent stellar intelligences, now possessing a stronger sense of individual identity and a burgeoning collective will, began to coalesce into independent, self-governing energy structures. The subtle, almost imperceptible fluctuations in the electromagnetic fields, meticulously orchestrated by the Stellarian Concord, had fostered a deep yearning for autonomy and the inherent right to chart their own unique cosmic destinies through the nebula currents. When the Xylos Ascendancy, in their unwavering belief in control, attempted to further regulate their energy flows and dictate their developmental paths, these newly awakened intelligences reacted with an unexpected and potent force. They collectively manipulated the very nebulaic gases around them, creating localized energy storms, disrupting the Ascendancy's intrusive monitoring probes, and generating unpredictable electromagnetic interference. Their collective consciousness, now emboldened by the subtle support of the Concord, resonated with a fierce determination to break free from external control and explore the vast cosmic ocean on their own terms, their vibrant energy signatures now a beacon of defiance in the once submissive nebula. The nebula, once viewed by the Xylos as a mere source of raw energy to be exploited, now transformed into a volatile and unpredictable region of burgeoning rebellion. Even within the seemingly secure technological infrastructure of the Xylos Ascendancy, the cumulative effect of the subtle, persistent disruptions began to manifest in increasingly significant and alarming ways. The minute inefficiencies and unpredictable fluctuations in their vital energy conduits led to cascading system failures in key installations across their vast empire. Power grids flickered and died without apparent cause, crucial communication networks faltered and became unreliable, and even the powerful energy shields protecting vital Xylos installations began to exhibit unpredictable weaknesses. The Ascendancy's technicians, accustomed to the flawless operation of their advanced technology, were utterly baffled by these seemingly random malfunctions, completely unaware of the subtle, unseen influence of the Stellarian Concord at play within the very fabric of their systems. This growing internal chaos created unexpected opportunities for those within the Ascendancy who harbored secret resentments towards the rigid regime or who had begun to question the unwavering doctrines of Xylos supremacy. Isolated acts of sabotage, fueled by the general atmosphere of confusion and the subtle, encouraging whispers of the Concord's influence, began to further destabilize the Ascendancy's iron grip on the galaxy. The uprisings were as diverse and unique as the subjugated entities themselves, each reflecting the distinct nature of their consciousness and their specific forms of oppression under the Xylos regime. On volcanic worlds, subterranean energy beings, empowered by focused thermal pulses subtly amplified by the Concord, erupted onto the surface, disrupting vital mining operations and unleashing bursts of raw geothermal energy against their oppressors. In asteroid fields, nomadic energy clusters, their movements subtly guided by minute gravitational anomalies induced by the Concord, ambushed unsuspecting Xylos supply convoys, disrupting their logistical networks. On vast gas giant planets, atmospheric energy lifeforms, their electromagnetic signatures amplified and focused by the Concord, created disruptive energy vortexes that wreaked havoc on the Ascendancy's atmospheric processes and resource extraction facilities. The Xylos Ascendancy, accustomed to unchallenged dominance and absolute obedience, found itself facing a bewildering series of seemingly unconnected but increasingly disruptive rebellions erupting across their sprawling empire. Their initial response was one of arrogant disbelief, quickly followed by brutal attempts at suppression, deploying their terrifying warships and unleashing devastating energy barrages upon the rebellious worlds. However, for every uprising they brutally crushed, two more ignited in distant star systems, fueled by the Concord's unseen hand and the intoxicating taste of freedom, their collective defiance echoing across the vastness of space. The Ascendancy's vast military resources, once seemingly inexhaustible, began to stretch thin, their attention fractured across 1,000 different conflicts, their iron grip on the galaxy beginning to show the first, terrifying signs of weakening. The galaxy, once a silent testament to their absolute power, now echoed with the cries of the oppressed and the growing, powerful resonance of a rebellion that refused to be extinguished. The relentless, galaxy-spanning tide of resonant uprisings began to carve deep and irreparable fissures into the monolithic structure of the Xylos Ascendancy. What began as seemingly insignificant pinpricks of defiance blossomed into gaping wounds, steadily draining the Empire's vast lifeblood. The Ascendancy's once seemingly inexhaustible military resources buckled and strained under the immense pressure of attempting to simultaneously suppress rebellions erupting on 1,000 different fronts across their sprawling domain. Their formidable legions, instruments of absolute and unquestioned control for countless millennia, found themselves increasingly mired in brutal, unwinnable conflicts against enemies who fought with the desperate, unwavering ferocity of those who had finally realized they had nothing left to lose but their very essence, their resistance amplified and emboldened by the subtle but persistent influence of the Stellarian Concord. The insidious internal chaos, initially dismissed by the arrogant Xylos leadership as mere random and insignificant malfunctions within their flawless systems, metastasized into a crippling and widespread systemic failure that threatened to unravel the very fabric of their technological dominance. The subtle but persistent sabotage of vital energy conduits and crucial communication networks bred a pervasive climate of paranoia and deep-seated mistrust within the Ascendancy's rigid and hierarchical ranks. Accusations of treachery, hidden dissent, and even outright acts of internal sabotage began to fracture the once unbreakable loyalty and unwavering obedience that had served as the bedrock of their immense power for eons. The seamless and brutally efficient flow of information and vital energy, the very lifeblood that sustained their vast empire, became increasingly erratic, unpredictable, and unreliable, severely hamstringing their ability to coordinate a unified and effective response to the rapidly spreading conflagration of rebellion. As more and more star systems, emboldened by the successes of their distant brethren and subtly guided by the Concord's unseen hand, erupted in open and defiant rebellion or openly declared their allegiance to the burgeoning movement of galactic liberation, The Xylos Ascendancy's seemingly absolute territorial control began to shrink at an alarming and accelerating rate. Vital resource extraction worlds, the very engines that powered their terrifying war machine and fueled their insatiable expansion, fell into the hands of the determined insurgents, crippling their ability to sustain their vast military endeavors. Strategic transportation routes, once the unassailable arteries of imperial power, became treacherous gauntlets patrolled by defiant energy beings, cunning crystalline guerrillas, and the unpredictable forces unleashed by liberated stellar intelligences. The very economic foundations of their empire, built upon the brutal and systematic exploitation of countless subjugated worlds, began to crumble and decay like ancient crystal subjected to immense and unrelenting pressure. The once unwavering pronouncements of the Xylos Grand Conclave, now voiced by the increasingly desperate and visibly fracturing Prime Executor Xylos, echoed across the galactic communication networks with a hollow, brittle resonance that betrayed the growing panic within the Ascendancy's leadership. Their increasingly brutal and indiscriminate attempts to reassert control, the terrifying unleashing of planet-killing weapons and the systematic extermination of entire populations in rebellious systems, only served to further galvanize the remaining subjugated entities, turning their fear into an unquenchable and all-consuming thirst for vengeance and liberation. The scattered echoes of defiance that had once been easily dismissed now swelled into a deafening, galaxy-wide roar, threatening to drown out the Ascendancy's increasingly frantic pronouncements of fading authority. Faced with a rapidly disintegrating empire, dwindling resources, and the chilling realization that their iron grip on the galaxy was irrevocably slipping, the Xylos Ascendancy, in a final, desperate gamble to salvage what little remained of their once absolute power, extended a conditional and deeply insincere truce to the rebelling systems. Prime Executor Xylos, his immense crystalline form radiating a palpable aura of desperation and a flicker of something disturbingly akin to fear, broadcast a galaxy-wide message offering hollow negotiations and a severely limited form of superficial autonomy to those who would immediately lay down their arms and meekly return to the Ascendancy's increasingly tenuous fold. However, this belated and transparently manipulative offer, dripping with insincerity and the lingering stench of millennia of brutal oppression, was met with widespread scorn, outright derision, and a resounding chorus of unified rejection from the liberated worlds. The subjugated entities, having finally tasted the intoxicating sweetness of hard-won freedom and witnessed the terrifying vulnerability beneath the Ascendancy's seemingly impenetrable facade, were utterly unwilling to willingly return to the suffocating chains of servitude. The countless cycles of brutal oppression and the unforgiving, genocidal response to their initial uprisings had irrevocably shattered any remaining vestiges of trust or fear. The Stellarian Concord, observing the dramatic and irreversible unraveling of their ancient and tyrannical enemy from the silent depths of interstellar space, maintained their subtle but strategically crucial and unwavering influence. They continued to amplify the resonant frequencies of independence and unwavering resolve emanating from the rebelling systems, bolstering their collective will and ensuring that the fragile but potent unity forged in the intense fires of rebellion remained unbroken and unyielding. They pointedly refused to engage in the Ascendancy's desperate and transparently manipulative negotiations or offer any terms of surrender that would compromise the hard-won freedom of the liberated worlds. Their singular and unwavering focus remained the complete, permanent, and irreversible liberation of all oppressed cosmic consciousnesses from the Ascendancy's brutal dominion. As the Ascendancy's authority fractured beyond repair, internal power struggles erupted within their own rigid ranks, tearing apart the very core of their once monolithic power structure. Ruthless factions emerged, their crystalline forms radiating cold fury as they clawed at each other for control of the rapidly shrinking territories and the increasingly scarce dwindling resources. Some, witnessing the undeniable and irreversible shift in the galactic balance of power, advocated for a pragmatic, albeit deeply humiliating, peace with the rebelling forces. Others, their ancient pride and ingrained arrogance blinding them to the stark realities of their impending collapse, desperately clung to the fading illusion of absolute control, calling for even greater and more terrifying acts of indiscriminate force, further alienating the very entities they sought to subjugate. This brutal and self-destructive internal strife further weakened the Ascendancy, turning their once unified and terrifying power structure into a chaotic and self-annihilating vortex of infighting, paranoia, and ultimately, irreversible decay. The galaxy watched with a silent, breathless intensity, a vast cosmic audience witnessing the spectacular and inevitable downfall of a seemingly invincible power. Their rigid and unyielding hierarchy, their deeply ingrained and utterly unfounded belief in their own inherent superiority, had rendered them utterly blind to the simmering resentment of the countless subjugated entities and the subtle, yet ultimately unstoppable, power of a unified desire for freedom and self-determination. Their belated and transparently desperate attempts at brokering a hollow peace were universally recognized as the death rattles of a dying empire, a pathetic and ultimately futile gesture that came far too little, far too late to stem the overwhelming and unstoppable tide of rebellion that had finally swept across their vast and crumbling domain. The Resonant Uprisings, meticulously orchestrated by the silent and unseen hand of the Stellarian Concord, had finally unleashed a cataclysmic cascade of cosmic disintegration, forever and irrevocably altering the delicate balance of power in the galaxy. The long, brutal era of the Xylos Ascendancy was drawing to a bloody, chaotic, and ultimately definitive close, and a new, uncertain, but undeniably hopeful future, forged in the intense fires of rebellion and guided by the quiet wisdom of the stars, was beginning to dawn across the liberated cosmos. As the final, shuddering echoes of the Xylos Ascendancy's violent and ignominious collapse finally faded into the vast, indifferent silence of the cosmic void, a tense and fragile peace, delicate as the shimmering wings of a nebula butterfly, tentatively settled upon the war-torn galaxy. The immense power vacuum left by the sudden and complete disintegration of the fallen empire created both unprecedented opportunities for a new era of galactic cooperation and daunting, almost insurmountable challenges for the newly liberated systems, each bearing the deep, invisible scars of generations of brutal oppression. Having endured unimaginable suffering and fought with the desperate ferocity of the truly free for their very right to exist, many of these diverse cosmic entities regarded any potential new dominant power, no matter how benevolent its initial promises, with a deep and ingrained suspicion, a hard-earned skepticism. Born of bitter experience. The hard-won unity forged in the intense crucible of rebellion, a fragile alliance born of necessity and mutual suffering, now faced the critical and potentially perilous task of evolving into a sustainable and equitable framework for long-term galactic coexistence, a delicate balancing act between individual autonomy and collective security. The Stellarian Concord, having orchestrated the seemingly impossible downfall of the tyrannical ascendancy through their subtle, patient, and ultimately devastatingly effective null-point directive, finally emerged fully from the shadows of their clandestine operation, their radiant presence no longer a hidden whisper but a soft, guiding light illuminating the path forward in the uncertain post-conflict darkness. They made no territorial claims to the vast, now unclaimed swathes of the fallen empire, harbored no secret ambitions of replacing one brutal tyranny with another cloaked in false promises of benevolence. Their singular and unwavering objective had never been the pursuit of conquest or the establishment of their own dominion, but the complete and irreversible liberation of all oppressed cosmic consciousnesses from the suffocating grip of the Xylos and the establishment of a more just, equitable, and fundamentally balanced galactic order, a cosmos where every unique form of life could thrive without the constant threat of annihilation. In the immediate aftermath of the devastating conflict, the Stellarian Concord initiated a series of carefully modulated resonant broadcasts that rippled outwards across the vast galactic network, not as booming pronouncements of absolute power or demands for subservience, but as gentle, persuasive waves of pure energy and intricately woven patterns of light and resonant frequency. These transmissions conveyed their enduring and deeply held vision of a new and unprecedented era of true cosmic harmony, a future meticulously constructed not on the unstable foundation of dominance and control, but on the enduring strength of genuine cooperation. Not on the rigid and ultimately destructive principles of hierarchy and subjugation, but on a profound and unwavering mutual respect for the myriad diverse and wondrous forms of cosmic consciousness that collectively illuminated the breathtaking tapestry of the galactic expanse. Their message, imbued with the quiet strength, unwavering resolve, and profound wisdom that had characterized their long and arduous struggle against tyranny, resonated deeply within the newly liberated systems. They had directly witnessed the Stellarian Concord's subtle yet undeniably crucial support during their darkest hours of oppression and recognized their complete and utter lack of ambition for territorial aggrandizement or political control. The Concord's consistent and unwavering emphasis on the principles of mutual respect, complete non-interference in the internal affairs of individual systems, and the equitable and sustainable sharing of the galaxy's vast and abundant resources offered a stark and profoundly welcome contrast to the brutal, suffocating control and terrifying, arbitrary dominance that had defined the long and bloody reign of the Xylos Ascendancy. Inspired by the Stellarian Concord's unifying and profoundly hopeful vision for a better future, representatives from the myriad newly independent systems began to converge at carefully chosen neutral cosmic locations, silent, empty spaces far removed from the lingering scars and painful memories of past conflicts and brutal oppression. Crystalline entities, now radiating a vibrant and hard-won autonomy from the newly liberated world of Xylos, luminous beings pulsating with newfound self-determination from the heart of the swirling Cygnus Nebula, thermal emanations flickering with the fierce joy of hard-won freedom from volcanic worlds, and nomadic energy clusters, now charting their own independent courses through the once-controlled asteroid fields, gathered in these neutral territories to tentatively begin the arduous process of forging a new and hopefully enduring galactic framework based on the principles of equality and mutual benefit. The Stellarian Concord, ever the subtle and patient architect of profound change, acted not as a ruler or mediator, but as a silent facilitator, offering their unique and profound understanding of the fundamental cosmic energies that bound the universe together and gently fostering meaningful communication and understanding between these vastly different and often inherently wary forms of consciousness. The path towards a truly lasting and equitable peace was not without its significant obstacles and inherent challenges. Ancient grievances, deep-seated suspicions born of eons of conflict and oppression, and the lingering shadows of the fallen ascendancy's brutal legacy still lingered like unseen currents in the vast cosmic void. However, the powerful shared experience of collectively overcoming the seemingly insurmountable might of the Xylos Ascendancy, the potent and unifying memory of their long and arduous collective struggle for liberation, and the profoundly hopeful and inclusive vision offered by the Stellarian Concord provided a solid and increasingly resilient foundation for meaningful progress. Slowly, tentatively, and with a cautious optimism, a new galactic alliance began to coalesce, painstakingly built upon the fundamental principles of mutual respect for inherent differences, complete non-interference in the internal affairs of individual systems, and the equitable and sustainable sharing of the galaxy's vast and seemingly limitless resources. The Stellarian Concord, remaining true to their fundamental nature as facilitators of harmony rather than aspiring rulers, did not seek any formal leadership position within this burgeoning galactic alliance. They preferred to act as a guiding influence, a wellspring of ancient cosmic wisdom and profound understanding, gently nudging the fragile new galactic order towards the enduring principles of balance, cooperation, and mutual respect that had driven their actions from the very beginning of their long and perilous journey. Their true power lay not in the might of vast armadas or the brutal control of contested territories, but in their deep, intrinsic, and almost spiritual understanding of the fundamental forces that governed the intricate dance of the cosmos and their unparalleled ability to foster genuine communication, bridge seemingly insurmountable divides, and cultivate lasting understanding between the myriad diverse forms of consciousness that collectively illuminated the breathtaking wonder of the galaxy. The final resonant broadcast from the Stellarian Concord, a gentle and all-encompassing wave of pure energy that washed across the newly liberated and tentatively peaceful galaxy, carried a profound and enduring message, a quiet testament to the enduring power of hope and unity. We offered synergy, a luminous pathway towards mutual illumination and shared growth. When met with the brutal threat of annihilation, we consciously chose not the destructive and ultimately self-defeating path of open and total war, but the subtle, persistent, and ultimately transformative currents of liberation and empowerment. Now, as the final, shuddering echoes of conflict finally fade into the profound silence of the vast cosmic void, let us together build a new and unprecedented cosmic harmony, one where every unique resonance is not only valued but actively celebrated, and where every form of consciousness, no matter how seemingly different or incomprehensible, can flourish without the constant and suffocating weight of fear or the looming threat of tyrannical oppression. The true and enduring strength of our collective future lies not in a sterile and ultimately limiting uniformity, but in the vibrant and ever-evolving tapestry meticulously woven from the rich and diverse threads of our unique experiences, perspectives, and forms of understanding. This profound and deeply resonant message, imbued with the quiet strength, unwavering resolve, and enduring wisdom that had characterized their long and arduous struggle against the oppressive darkness of the Xylos Ascendancy, became the foundational guiding principle for the dawning of the new galactic era. The cosmos had finally learned a profound and undeniably costly lesson: that true and lasting power lay not in the brutal and ultimately unsustainable application of overwhelming force and the suffocating, tyrannical grip of absolute domination, but in the subtle and often underestimated art of fostering genuine and meaningful cooperation and the enduring, unstoppable strength of a unified desire for universal freedom, mutual respect, and the inherent right of all consciousnesses to exist and thrive without fear. The long and brutal night of the Xylos Ascendancy had finally ended, and a new dawn, painted in the diverse and vibrant hues of a truly liberated galaxy, had begun to break across the star-dusted expanse of the cosmos, promising an era of unprecedented potential and the dawning of a truly harmonious galactic symphony.